Hey guys, welcome to day 205 of the Bible Linear Plan. Today, we will be reading 2 Kings 24 through 25, 2 Chronicles 36, 1 Peter 3, and Psalm 126. If you need to read more about this plan, visit the High Quality Gospel website with a link in the description of the episode and the podcast. Please leave a like and follow the podcast to stay up to date with new episodes. Now, let's begin with reading 2 Kings 24. During Jehoiakim's reign, King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon attacked Jehoiakim, became his vassal for 3 years, and he turned and rebelled against him. The Lord sent Chaldean, Aramean, Moabite, and Ammonite raiders against Jehoiakim. He sent them against Judah to destroy it, according to the word of the Lord he had spoken through his servants the prophets. Indeed, this happened to Judah at the Lord's command to remove them from his presence. It was because of the sins of Manasseh, according to all he had done, and also because of all the innocent blood he had shed. He had filled Jerusalem with innocent blood, and the Lord was not willing to forgive. The rest of the events of Jehoiakim's reign, along with all the accomplishments, are written in the historical record of Judah's kings. Jehoiakim rested with his ancestors, and his son Jehoiakim became king in his place. Now the king of Egypt did not march out of this land again, for the king of Babylon took everything that had belonged to the king of Egypt, from the brook of Egypt to the Euphrates River. Jehoiakim was 18 years old when he became king, and he reigned 3 months in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Nehushta, daughter of Elnathan. She was from Jerusalem. He did what was evil in the Lord's sight, just as his father had done. At that time the servants of King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon marched up to Jerusalem, and the city became under siege. King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon came to the city while his servants were besieging it. King Jehoiakim of Judah, along with his mother, his servants, his commanders, and his officials, surrendered to the king of Babylon. So the king of Babylon took him captive in the 8th year of his reign. He also carried off from there all the treasures of the Lord's temple and the treasures of the king's palace, and he cut into pieces all the gold articles that King Solomon of Israel had made for the Lord's sanctuary, just as the Lord had predicted. He deported all Jerusalem, and the commanders and all the best soldiers, 10,000 captives, including all the craftsmen and metalsmiths, except for the poorest people of the land. No one remained. Nebuchadnezzar deported Jehoiakim to Babylon. He took the king's mother, the king's wives, his officials, and the leading men of the land into exile from Jerusalem to Babylon. The king of Babylon brought captive into Babylon all 7,000 of the best soldiers and 1,000 craftsmen and metalsmiths, all strong and fit for war. And the king of Babylon made Mattaniah, Jehoiakim's uncle, king in his place, and changed his name to Zedekiah. Zedekiah was 21 years old when he became king, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Hamutal, daughter of Jeremiah. She was from Libnah. Zedekiah did what was evil in the Lord's sight, just as Jehoiakim had done. Because of the Lord's anger, it came to the point in Jerusalem and Judah that he finally banished them from his presence. Then Zedekiah rebelled against the king of Babylon. In the 9th year of Zedekiah's reign, on the 10th day of the 10th month, King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon advanced against Jerusalem with his entire army. They laid siege to the city and built a siege wall against it all around. The city was under siege until King Zedekiah's 11th year. By the 9th day of the 4th month, the famine was so severe in the city that the common people had no food. Then the city was broken into, and all the warriors fled at night by way of the city gate between the two walls near the king's garden, even though the Chaldeans surrounded the city. As the king made his way along the route to the Arabah, the Chaldean army pursued him and overtook him in the plains of Jericho. Zedekiah's entire army left him and scattered. The Chaldeans seized the king and brought him up to the king of Babylon at Riblah, and they passed sentence on him. They slaughtered Zedekiah's sons before his eyes. Finally, the king of Babylon blinded Zedekiah, bound him in bronze chains, and took him to Babylon. On the 7th day of the 5th month, which was the 19th year of King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon, Zebuzaradan, the captain of the guards, a servant of the king of Babylon, entered Jerusalem. He burned the Lord's temple, the king's palace, and all the houses of Jerusalem. He burned down all the great houses. The whole Chaldean army, with the captain of the guards, tore down the walls surrounding Jerusalem. Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guards, deported the rest of the people who remained in the city, the deserters who had defected to the king of Babylon, and the rest of the population. But the captain of the guards left some of the poorest of the land to be vine dressers and farmers. Now the Chaldeans broke into pieces the bronze pillars of the Lord's temple, the water carts, and the bronze basin, which were in the Lord's temple, and carried the bronze to Babylon. They also took the pots, shovels, wick trimmers, dishes, and all the bronze articles used in the priest's service. The captain of the guards took away the fire pans and sprinkling basins, whatever was gold or silver. As for the two pillars, the one basin, and the water carts that Solomon had made for the Lord's temple, the weight of the bronze of all these articles was beyond measure. One pillar was 27 feet tall and had a bronze capital on top of it. The capital, encircled by a grating and pomegranates of bronze, stood 5 feet high. The second pillar was the same, with its own grating. The captain of the guards also took away Seraiah, the chief priest, Zephaniah, the priest of the second rank, and the 3 doorkeepers. From the city he took a court official who had been appointed over the warriors, 5 trusted royal aides found in the city, the secretary of the commander of the army, who enlisted the people of the land for military duty, and 60 men from the common people, who were found within the city. Zebuzaradan, the captain of the guards, took them and brought them to the king of Babylon at Riblah. The king of Babylon put them to death at Riblah in the land of Hamath. So Judah went into exile from this land. King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon appointed Gedaliah, son of Ahikam, the son of Shaphan, over the rest of the people he left in the land of Judah. When all the commanders of the armies, they and their men, heard that the king of Babylon had appointed Gedaliah, they came to Gedaliah at Mizpah. The commanders included Ishmael, son of Nethaniah, Johanan, son of Kareah, Seraiah, son of Tenhumeth, the Netophathite, and Jazaniah, son of Maccathite, they and their men. Gedaliah swore an oath to them and their men, assuring them, "Don't be afraid of the servants of the Chaldeans. Live in the land and serve the king of Babylon, and it will go well for you." In the 7th month, however, Ishmael, son of Nethaniah, son of Elishama, the royal family, came with 10 men and struck down Gedaliah when he died. Also they killed the Judeans and the Chaldeans who were with him at Mizpah. Then all the people from the youngest to the oldest and the commanders of the army left and went to Egypt, for they were afraid of the Chaldeans. On the 27th day of the 12th month of the 37th year of the exile of Judah's king Jehoiakim, in the year Evil-Merodach became king of Babylon, he pardoned King Jehoiakim of Judah and released him from prison. He spoke kindly to him and set his throne over the thrones of the kings who were with him in Babylon. So Jehoiakim changed his prison clothes, and he dined regularly in the presence of the kings of Babylon for the rest of his life. As for his allowance, a regular allowance was given to him by the king, a portion for each day for the rest of his life. Now we read 2 Chronicles 36. Then the common people took Jehoahaz, son of Josiah, and made him king in Jerusalem in place of his father. Jehoahaz was 23 years old when he became king, and he reigned 3 months in Jerusalem. The king of Egypt deposed of him in Jerusalem, and fined the land 7,500 pounds of silver and 75 pounds of gold. Then King Necho of Egypt made Jehoahaz his brother Eliakim king over Judah and Jerusalem, and changed Eliakim's name to Jehoiakim. But Necho took his brother Jehoahaz and brought him to Egypt. Jehoiakim was 25 years old when he became king, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. He did what was evil in the sight of the Lord his God. Now King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon attacked him and bound him in bronze shackles to take him to Babylon. Also Nebuchadnezzar took some of the articles of the Lord's temple to Babylon and put them in his temple in Babylon. The rest of the deeds of Jehoiakim, the detestable actions he committed, and what was found against him, are written in the book of Israel's kings. His son Jehoiakim became king in his place. Jehoiakim was 18 years old when he became king, and he reigned 3 months and 10 days in Jerusalem. He did what was evil in the Lord's sight. In the spring, Nebuchadnezzar sent for him and brought him to Babylon, along with the valuable articles of the Lord's temple. Then he made Jehoiakim's brother Zedekiah king over Judah and Jerusalem. Zedekiah was 21 years old when he became king, and reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. He did what was evil in the sight of the Lord his God, and did not humble himself before the prophet Jeremiah at the Lord's command. He also rebelled against King Nebuchadnezzar, who had made him swear allegiance by God. He became obstinate and hardened his heart against returning to the Lord, the God of Israel. All the leaders of the priests and the people multiplied their unfaithful deeds, imitating all the detestable practices of the nations, and they defiled the Lord's temple that he had consecrated in Jerusalem. But the Lord, the God of their ancestors, sent word against them by the hand of his messengers, sending them time and time again, for he had compassion on his people and on his dwelling place. But they kept ridiculing God's messengers, despising his words, and scoffing at the prophets, until the Lord's wrath was so stirred up against his people that there was no remedy. So he brought up against them the king of the Chaldeans, who killed their fit young men with the sword in the house of their sanctuary. He had no pity on young men or young women, elderly or aged. He handed them over to him. He took everything to Babylon, all the articles of God's temple, large and small, the treasures of the Lord's temple, and the treasures of the king and his officials. Then the Chaldeans burned God's temple. They tore down Jerusalem's walls, burned all its palaces, and destroyed all its valuable clothing. He deported those who escaped from the sword to Babylon, and they became servants to him and his sons until the rise of the Persian kingdom. This fulfilled the word of the Lord through Jeremiah, and the land enjoyed its Sabbath rest all the days of the desolation until 70 years were fulfilled. In the first year of King Cyrus of Persia, in order to fulfill the word of the Lord spoken through Jeremiah, the Lord roused the spirit of King Cyrus of Persia to issue a proclamation throughout his entire kingdom, and also to put in his writing. This is what King Cyrus of Persia says: "The Lord, the God of the heavens, has given me all the kingdoms of the earth, and has appointed me to build him a temple at Jerusalem in Judah. Any of his people among you may go up, and may the Lord, his God, be with him." Now we read 1 Peter 3. In the same way, wives, submit yourselves to your own husbands, so that even if some disobey the word, that they may be won over, without a word, by the way of their wives live, when they observe your pure, reverent lives. Don't let your beauty consist of outward things like elaborate hairstyles and wearing gold jewelry or fine clothes, but rather what is inside the heart, the imperishable quality of a gentle and quiet spirit, which is of great worth in God's sight. For in the past the holy women who put their hope in God also adorned themselves in this way, submitting to their own husbands. Just as Sarah obeyed Abraham, calling him Lord, you have become her children when you do what is good and do not fear any intimidation. Husbands, in the same way, live as your wives with an understanding way, as with a weaker partner, showing them honor and co-heirs of the grace of life, so that your prayers will not be hindered. Finally, all of you be like-minded and sympathetic, love one another, and be compassionate and humble, not paying back evil for evil or insult for insult, but on the contrary, giving a blessing, since you were called for this, so that you may inherit a blessing. For the one who wants to love life and to see good days, let him keep his tongue from evil, and his lips from speaking deceit, and let him turn away from evil and do what is good. Let him seek peace and pursue it, because the eyes of the Lord are on the righteous, and his ears are open to their prayer. But the face of the Lord is against those who do what is evil. Who then will harm you if you are devoted to what is good? But even if you should suffer for righteousness, you are blessed. Do not fear them or be intimidated, but in your hearts regard Christ the Lord as holy, ready at any time to give a defense to anyone who asks you for a reason for the hope that is in you. Yet do this with gentleness and reverence, keeping a clear conscience, so that when you are accused, those who disparage your good conduct in Christ will be put to shame. For it is better to suffer for doing good, if that should be God's will, than for doing evil. For Christ also suffered for sins once and for all, the righteous for the unrighteous, that he may bring you to God. He was put to death in the flesh, but made alive in the Spirit, in which he also went and made proclamation to the spirits in prison, who in the vast were disobedient, when God patiently awaited in the days of Noah, while the ark was being prepared. In it a few, that is, 8 people, were saved through water. Baptism, which corresponds to this, now saves you, not as the removal of dirt from the body, but the pledge of a good conscience towards God, through the resurrection of Jesus Christ, who has gone into heaven, and is at the right hand of God, with angels, authorities, and powers subject to him. Now we read Psalm 126. When the Lord restored the fortunes of Zion, we were like those who dream. Our mouths were filled with laughter then, and our tongues with shouts of joy. Then they said among the nations, the Lord has done great things for them. The Lord has done great things for us. We were joyful. Restore our fortunes, Lord, like watercourses in the Negev. Those who sow in tears will reap with shouts of joy. Through one goes along weeping, carrying the bag of seed. He will surely come back with shouts of joy, carrying his sheaves. On day 204, we read of the fall of Jerusalem, and in 1 Peter, we read about living as foreigners in this world. Today we finish 2 Kings and 2 Chronicles. Both books had us deep dive into the historical accounts of the kingdoms of Israel and Judah. We witnessed many kings follow God's laws, and many kings rebel against God. Even the best of kings still failed in some respects, some even to their dying days. From Solomon, we saw how he tried to mostly follow the law of God, like his father David. Solomon built the temple, tried to stay focused on God, and he even obtained great wisdom, which is only found in God. But Solomon also committed sins, had many wives, and he suffered for it. Because of his sin, after his reign, the kingdom of Israel split in two, Judah and Israel. Israel was defiant and hated the kings who were appointed by God. They did not believe the tribe of Judah, the line of David, should rule over them. So they rebelled and became their own kingdom. They created their own temples, adopted their own law, and cut themselves off from the one true God. They never again followed in the ways of God. Over time, they became more and more sinful, resulting in their early demise and destruction at the hands of Assyria. Many prophets tried to warn them, but the people and the kings refused. Proof of their sins is found in their kingly lineage. There was no royal family, no promised family. Kings kept getting killed and replaced through conspiracy and murder, which shows how little care they had for God and each other. But their sins bled through into Judah, who was supposed to be ruled by the chosen house of David. It stayed in this family because God made a covenant with David. However, they were not without some problems. Compared to Israel, they were great followers of the law, but many kings did commit evils. They went back and forth between following God and building idols to worship other false gods. Finally, God had enough and proclaimed judgment on them. Due to the sins of their leaders and the people themselves, Babylon came and destroyed Judah and Jerusalem, removing God's people from the promised land, to give it rest from the various sins of the people. Not every leader of the world will be perfect. Some will be incredibly sinful, but God can still use them to produce goodness. God did this with the evil kings of the nations, including foreign nations like Babylon. There were great kings who were children of evil ones, and they followed God. Sometimes the good leaders fall further into sin. When our leaders do not lead in a godly way, if they do not follow God, the people won't either. That's what happened to Israel. They decided to follow worldly things and not the things in heaven. So judgment and discipline came, but restoration will come as well. In 1 Peter, Peter begins discussing how husbands and wives should behave with each other. The traditional godly marriage is going to look different from the world. Christian marriage has the wife being submissive to the husband, even unbelieving husbands. What this means is that wives have the calling to display Christ to their husbands in this way, with respectfulness, honor, humility, and inner beauty. They should not flaunt their beauty to the world, but instead seek inner beauty that is valuable to God. Wives are called to serve as Christ served, having inner beauty that the world cannot provide, and having no fear for the world. Husbands are commanded to serve as well. Husbands should also serve their wives as Christ served the church, us, his people. They should honor their wives, just as Christ honored us. Though they may have different jobs and responsibilities in their marriage, they are both co-heirs of the grace of God, equal in heaven. If a husband does not honor and serve his wife, then his wife will struggle with submission. Peter also discusses that we as believers should have a unity of mind, acting in the same godly ways, setting ourselves apart from the world. Even during suffering, we must submit to Christ and follow his ways, not the world's. For he suffered and still was righteous. So too must we. Lastly, in Psalm, we see a psalm about Israel's restoration. This shows the passion and joyfulness after being restored. Even though this was written for Israel, we should also act in the same way when a person is restored through Christ. As unbelievers, we live in exile, in death. But when we believe, we are restored, brought back into the kingdom, and live joyous lives. Thank you for joining in the reading and understanding of these chapters, and let us all be vigilant in continuing this reading. Please share, like, follow, or whatever you can do to help us reach more people with the Bible reading. Please also check out the High Quality Gospel website for more information and a couple of store items. Thank you, and keep learning.